Is there any, what do you mean, question that you want to ask to Dr. Bracke before we have a break? Yes, please.
Perhaps just
So tell us your name again.
Oh,
Say who you are.
My name is Petrushka Schaapsma. I'm from the Department of Theology, and my subject is philosophy of religion. I'm busy with the family influencer. But information question is about why you called this movement. You said it's a bit hesitant, fundamentalist or traditionalist, and not just something like revival or
Born again.
No. I was wondering whether it fits in a group when you named it.
I actually think fundamentalism doesn't hold as an analytical category, but there is a body of scholarship on fundamentalist movements, recent, I mean, in this kind of comparative cross-religious way. That body of scholarship dates from end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s. And I'm thinking in particular, I don't know if you know the Fundamentalism Project, that big encyclopedic research project. I mean, it's a 5-volume encyclopedic volume. It was a 5 or 6 year research project sponsored by, receiving a huge research grant by the MacArthur Foundation, in which the idea was precisely to put movements from different religious traditions all over the world together and trace the fundamentalist impulse that was running through them. Now, Comunione Liberazione is included in that encyclopedic series, and for my doctoral research, in which I wanted to study so-called fundamentalist movement, I used that series as a guideline to make the distinction. I actually don't think fundamentalism holds as an analytical category, and if you would use names that pertain to a particular tradition itself, so in this case the Catholic tradition, I think one would probably say that Comunione Liberazione is a neo-traditionalist movement, because I mean there is, or maybe neo-integrist. I mean, integrism and traditionalism has a Catholic history. Fundamentalism doesn't. Fundamentalism has a Protestant history. But so you could say like it's a neo-tradition. Like in that Catholic history of integrism and traditionalism, it's a new form of it, with many distinctions of historical examples of traditionalism, and yet it's also important to use some kind of words, because otherwise we're just going to say, oh, it's a Catholic movement, but obviously it's a certain kind of Catholic movement. Yes.
Someone else? I have a quick one on this. Somebody was born in Catholicism and rejected it passionately and vehemently. The mind boggled at the thought that the new forms of religious subjectivity, which is already a challenge to my patterns of thinking, but even supposing I can understand what a new mode of religious subjectivity would be like, to quote saints and virgins as and models of this new subjectivity is at least amusing, to say the least. So I was wondering whether the novelty of this is the kind of thing that Bracke is doing in her second or third phase, that kind of new mode of horizontal transcendence, and that is the new part, or whether you were cracking a joke, or whether you're serious, the sainthood and virginity are actually new modes of subjectivity. That is, of course, at the core of the topic of this lecture, the seminar series. And so could we maybe through Bracke I can try to comprehend where you're going with this?
I'll come to Bracke, but first what for me makes it new, but I questioned it as well at the end, right? But why I still say new or renewed from a sociological point of view is precisely the fact of having saints and virginity in post-industrial, contemporary West European post-industrial society. They were not supposed to be there. They're not supposed to be there.
They never went away either. They never ceased being there.
They never totally went away, but they went into certain parts of modern society where they had some kind of place, which is mostly to say the private or a church that totally goes along with the secular contract, which is to say that what happens in church is not really very much related to what happens in the rest of life. So in a secular contract of modern society, they didn't go away, but they found some kind of place which was, I don't know, unthreatening. And the fact of having them come back in that sense, in a very assertive public way and upsetting that secular contract is new. So sociologically, that is the first indication for me of a new situation. And
so there's a sociological phenomenon that is new, a re-embracing of this previous.
And then a second sociological, and then a second sociological note would be, if we think in terms of articulation, and I use it, I didn't go into that, right, but I use it with Stuart Hall in mind, so articulation theory in that sense. When you put two elements together and they get articulated, because articulation theory in that sense is an analytical view, right? Like it's a bit deconstructive because it tries to identify certain elements that then in quotidian life are articulated together. So like there's this deconstructive move of trying to disentangle, to understand analytically what is going on. But when two elements get articulated together, they not necessarily stay exactly the same anymore. So what is happening with this virginity when it's occurring in post-industrial West European society, what is happening with this so-called sainthood? Is it still as medieval sainthood? I actually don't think so. In the same way as you can say, what is happening with modern society if we have this very assertive public religious manifestations going on? Is it still the same society as, let's say, the 60s? I also don't think so. What happens in an articulation is that something new in the end is born. And then Irigaray, I was actually reading lots of Irigaray while I was doing fieldwork and also checking out and reading her later work, so where she does the thing about the saints and women, also where she does the thing about women needing a God to have an autonomous notion of female subjectivity, needing a female God, needing a God, and women saints, reappropriating women saints. And sometimes I was checking out how that, like I would, apart from obvious conversations, I would leave my books of Irigaray like on the table in the house of women of Chia, where I was reading, and just trying to get all kind of little cues of like, does this connect or not, apart from the real conversations we had. And it doesn't connect, let me just put it in my mind. It is a weird element in the Chia house to have this book of Irigaray on the table. And then when I would talk about it and say, women needing a God for their autonomy, in the end, and this is where Irigaray works, in an analysis, in the framework, where she goes back to Feuerbach in that respect, right? In the end, it remains a very secular way of looking at a God. It's a constructivist way of, it's constructing a God, right? And that is one of the moments where you see this radical difference with this kind of religious movement where God is not something that is constructed for them.
He is the being whose essence consists in being.
He's the subject and agency and yeah.
Okay, then I'm reassured for that. You're reassured. Thank you for your patience. Will you remind us of the name?
My name is Peter Fuchs. I am in the research program of Basis for Acteurs. And I wonder if this new religious subjectivity may have even aesthetical roots or aesthetical point of origin. That, for example, new sainthood could be constructed from aesthetics elements of some form of previous religional subjectivity. That's also a question of mine.
Okay, I'm not sure if I got the whole picture of the question, but you mean like aesthetical as a source of constructing some of these? Definitely. I mean, it's something I didn't touch upon at all here, but in the case of Chia, there is a strong aesthetics that is cultivated and it is very much a kind of, it's infused with medieval Renaissance points of reference.
Are we talking about motifs, artistic motifs, graphic motifs, decorative motifs?
The subjectivity itself could have aesthetic origins, and I think you are talking about the very same issue.
Yeah. And okay, I'll give a very concrete example, which was because it's not only motifs, it's not on the surface.
Like, it's not on the surface.
I mean, it's one of the dimension I didn't touch upon here, but it's not on the surface. I remember one of the spiritual exercises for Easter, basically, I think, that I went to with the students, like students of part of Milan, like 3,000 people, basically. And the spiritual exercise was set up in a beautiful, breathtaking monastery outside of Milan. So a beautiful church, beautiful simplicity of this breathtaking monastery. On a little bit of a hill, there was a beautiful day. Like, I mean, I remember it. It was trance, right? Like ecstasy. A beautiful day, blue sky, this monastery, silence. Also, an aesthetics of silence. At some moment, the people were asked to be silent, and 3,000 people for hours were silent. Like, not a mobile phone going off here and there. Like, there's that kind of discipline, of course. Silence, and then so this was the Via Crucis, what do you translate?
Stations of the Cross.
The Stations of the Cross was done with 3,000 people in the meadows, like around the monastery, and at the end everybody came back to the monastery, and then there was a mass in the church, in which a beautiful version, like a crystal clear version of Pergolesi Stabat Mater was more than half of the mass. So, I mean, am I conveying a little sense of, this is not aesthetics as a motif on top of something.
Yes.
This is profoundly organizing subjectivity and the affects of subjectivity through aesthetics.
Ritualization?
Yeah.
Is that for
Yeah.
ritualization?
It's not only ritualization.
Well, yeah, not only, it's something in between.
Yeah.
It's invented rituals, basically.
And very significantly, if you're talking about these religious experiences, like I was quite, I mean, I went quite far in this field work also because I told myself there's no sense if I go there and I already decided that I know what this is about. Like, I really am going to open myself up to what is happening here and let myself be affected if it honestly affects me. Like, I'm going to try to, put the secular walls in myself down. And that was a moment in which I was greatly affected. And of course, the people around me and my friends at the time, they knew and they noticed. And very significantly, it was one of these moments where my friend who was an informant, who has always been extremely respectful towards me, knowing that I'm coming from a totally different background, and not playing the missionary, which many people in Chia do, but but that was the one moment in which she had like a moment of ecstasy, saying, so, are you affected? And I was like, yes, I was. Like, after that day, and of course, we had been fasting that day, like we had been eating, so the hours of doing the Via Crucis under the sun, with somebody actually holding the big cross. I mean, there was a mode of, it's not only aesthetics, it was also trance in one sense, right, and ecstasy. And so the question was, were you affected? And I promised myself to be really honest with these things, and I was like, yes, I was totally affected. And the next question was, of course, so now, I mean, I don't remember it exactly, but it was, so now you believe, right? So now, since you've been affected...
Now I need a drink. Something to eat, speak up.
But it is one of the indications of... But I don't think this is particular to this kind of religious subjectivity. I think there's many subjectivities that work on those modes. I mean, I think late capitalism works on those modes. I think advertising works on the mode of, there's a moment of effectively drawing you in, and now you buy it, right? No, I don't buy it, but thanks for the beautiful moment. But so, but yeah.
Before the coffee break, I hate to do a Richard Dawkins on this, but when he writes that a lot of contemporary religion is a repackaging, an aesthetic, a ritualized, a repackaging of very heterogeneous motifs. I mean, the Stabat Mater of Pergolesi is pushing it. It's not something that you really play in church as a devout traditional Catholic. It's really kind of really borderline, over the top. So there is a kind of an interesting element of heterogeneity and a reinvention of tradition, which is typical Richard Dawkins would argue, is actually speaking the death of religion, is the end of religion, because this is a repackaging, is actually kitsch, and a certain amount of physical and mental, I don't know what to call it, manipulation, but certainly it doesn't really differ from a house party or any other event. Or, you know, we're staging an event, here is the staging.
But a Hollywood movie, for example.
Yeah. It reminds me of what's completely analogically thinking. So in the faculty we're discussing how do we keep people interested in ancient areas of study. And one of the ancient areas of study we have here is Celtic, the Celtic language. I'll tell you how we keep the Celtic language alive. The Goths are enrolling massively in our Celtic. So half of the intake of the Celtic classes is the Gospel, the Platforms that they're keeping advantages for them. It's of course an eventual tradition. So isn't there an element of profound religiosity involved in this kind of packaging? But this is a theme that has returned in a great deal of our talks. I think Peter van der Veers will take this one on with secularism's magic.